We're doing this. All right. Welcome back to the Bughead podcast. Today we have a special guest, an old guest, but a new guest. We got Necralant on the pod. You guys were, Nolan was episode like 5 or something. I think it was the old Necralant video. And the band's had some switch ups. We now got Logan on the drums and Nolan, you're doing vocals.
Yep.
And with that lineup switch, you guys have a new album coming out very soon. Do you want to just tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so this will be our third full-length release. It'll be our first full-length since Temple of the Ruin in 2021. So we're really excited to be getting a good chunk of music out again. And yeah, it's our first album with this new lineup. It's just me and Logan. And it's going to be called Upheaval. It's 7 songs plus 2 bonus tracks. And yeah, it comes out March 14th.
All right. Where'd you guys record this? Because it sounds great.
We recorded at Upside Records with Mark Frey Jr. doing the
home base.
engineering. Yeah, exactly.
Did Mark-
So, it's where we've recorded everything so far.
Did you guys mix it yourself, or did you have somebody else mixing it?
I did all the mixing on this one, which was,
it sounds great. It's like,
oh, thank you. I'm glad.
It's good.
This was new territory for me. I've never really mixed a harsh black metal album before.
Really?
So yeah. So I'm glad it came out good, because this was a completely new thing for me, and it was made a lot easier. With the recordings were just so clean. Like, Mark really got good recordings. It just makes your job easier. And then Nolan had a very clear direction to go with it and was able to guide me with exactly what he was looking for. So it actually was a pretty easy job for me, but I just wasn't sure. I was hoping it came out good. I'm glad it did.
All right. You're both also in Beneath Purgatory. Did you do any of the mixing for them? Do you have any? Is there like a different? I guess, how's the process for doing stuff for Beneath Purgatory been different than doing stuff for Necralant?
I don't think it could be more different. So BP is like we've tried to get a cleaner sound. I think we got it on the Martyr Approach, but the first 2 before that, Shredded Psyche, Grizzly Spectacle, I did, and I had no idea what I was doing. It wasn't until I finally took some college classes and kind of knew what I was doing that it came through on the Martyr Approach. But that's like completely in-house. Like, I record most of that on my own. We do drums with Mark, but we, like, most of the stuff's recorded in my room. We're really low on gear. Our band is in 4 different states right now, so we kind of make do with what we can. But with Necralant, this felt a lot more like a job. Like, we went in there and we did what we had to do, and it felt a lot more put together and in and out tight. Whereas with BP, it's kind of like, get done what we can, when we can, and how we can. And so it was actually a very different process. Both ways are. And it's kind of good to do that, especially when Nolan and I are overlapped in both bands. We need things to be different, because otherwise, what's the point of the 2? So, yeah.
How is the songwriting process for this one both different from like the past Necralant releases, and just, is there anything interesting you want to talk about, like how these songs came together?
Yeah, so the writing for this one was like, it was very focused and very inspired. Like, I had a clear vision in my head of like what I wanted to do with it. And it reminded me a lot of the same kind of writing process as I did for Temples of Ruin. It was that same kind of direction, like trying to channel the same kind of energy to flow through the whole album. And it had like just a very inspired direction for it, which is a little different than it was for Cosmic Gallows, which is the EP, which was part of a split that we put out last year. That one, like, all the songs kind of had different inspiration in them, and there was a bit more variation in the energy of the album. And same way with our self-titled album. That's why the songs are a bit more diverse through there. But yeah, with this album, it was more like the Temples of Ruin process, I'd say. And yeah, the writing process was smooth. It was really helpful having Logan in the band now, because he can help with making the demos for it now. Like, we were doing some demos on his computer with just like MIDI drums and stuff, which is something that we had never done before for Necralant. So it was really cool being able to hear the songs come together and like hear what they're going to sound like, or at least like a rough version of it before we go into the studio.
You guys just put out a single. I saw. Do you want to talk about that song in specific?
Yeah, the most recent one, Planet Decay.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a song I remember being really excited about when that one first came together. That one, it has like some parts of it are pretty traditional, like Necrolant style riffs and whatnot, but then some parts I feel are kind of newer territory. Like it's faster than we've ever gone before. Now having Logan on the drums, having it was his crazy blasting abilities, and there are some different riffing styles and tempos and whatnot that we haven't experimented as much with before. And the chorus of that song is actually one of my favorite parts of the album. So I was really excited to get that out there. And then the B side of the single was a re recording of our song from the first album, Descending to Power.
Do you want to go into what you mean by like different riffing styles a little bit? Because I noticed this that this feels really fresh. This feels like a really fresh release from Necrolant, but um it still has like everything that I liked about the band in there. So I
Hmm.
kind of, is there anywhere specific that you're pulling from for the new parts of the sound? Like I just want to hear like some more of the thought process and background behind that.
Yeah, like in Plane of Decay, for example, like the opening riff, where it's like those big chords and it's like that kind of marching drum beat is something we
Uh-huh.
hadn't really done before. It was total like mayhem, De Mysterious Alms and Tanas, or like Immortal Pure Holocaust, with like boom, wham, boom, bam, bam, like
Yep.
those big strums going up and down the strings like that. And then later on in the song, there's a part like the bridge section. I feel is kind of a different kind of sound for us. And then right after that, where it's like the part where it like stops, like starts and stops with the drums, like which is something we had done a little bit on like Plagueborn, for example, has a little bit of that. But I wanted to kind of push that more like punchy and maybe a bit more technical kind of songwriting rather than being super straightforward the way we were kind of in the past.
Uh, what do the performances for the this album look like now that it's just two of you? Are you getting anybody else to like fill in the sound, or is it a two man job now?
So yeah, we'll be getting like some live bassists going forward to fill in the sound like that. It'll probably be mostly uh, anonymous members and whatnot, but we'll have to see. But yeah, we'll have somebody playing live with us. And we have one show booked so far that's announced to be April 5th at Starlight in Southbridge, Mass. That'll be the Upheaval release show. That'll be with Old Bard and Mark Verdon. That'll be a really cool one. And then we have another show that's in the works that hasn't been announced yet for later on in the summer. So yeah, we're trying to just play as much as we can now, get back into the groove a bit, and help promote the album.
Yeah,
I
and
know
I mean,
you
as
were.
far as like, oh, sorry.
No, you go. You go.
Yeah, as far as like within the album itself, like it was just the two of us for pretty much everything. And as far as recordings going forward, we're not exactly sure. Probably just keep it to the two of us, but we will certainly find ways to fill it out live and bring the performance to life.
So you said it's releases on March 14th, right?
By day.
Yep,
All right.
3.14.
uh, outside of just that initial release show, what are you guys planning on doing for this release? Do you have any physicals coming out? Do you have like a label release of any kind?
Yeah, so right now we're gonna have a CD pressing coming out. That'll be under Upside. Yeah, yeah, there it is. Logan's
Oh,
got
oh,
it.
signed.
Got mine signed, of course, because always make Nolan sign mine.
Yeah,
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
So those will be available the day it comes out. We have album cover T-shirts too that are available now on Bandcamp.
All right, sick. Oh, they're already available?
Yeah, we put them out just to help people prepare, get ahead of the curve.
And who did the album cover for this one?
It was an artist that had hit me up through Instagram. Actually, let me pull up the official name so I can read it out. It's not one that I can
It
pronounce
might be
off
in
the top of
here.
my head. Yeah, yeah, it should be in the CD.
Oh,
Muzimbu Nadiri Studios.
What exactly is the artwork? Because I'm looking at it right now, and it definitely has the vibe you want there, but I'm like struggling to process what's going on in this image.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That was kind of like the aim with it, at least for me. It's like it's somewhat abstract looking. Like you can't tell exactly what it is, but you give like a an unsettling rough idea of what it is, kind of like those like uncanny valley type things that you see, where it's like to me it looks like just like the ruins of a planet or a population, and there's like a portal up top, and there's something like flying over it and everything. I remember I saw it and it just kind of struck me. I was like, wow, that's very like dismal looking, and it has
Huh.
kind of the vibe like it looks like it's some kind of post-apocalyptic view, or maybe even not post-apocalyptic, but like it's the process of some kind of decay and some kind of fall, but like a rebirth
I feel like I'm almost
at the
looking at
same
like
time.
some ancient forest ruins or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, I can see that.
And then you also
yeah.
have an alternative cover with an amazing photo, shot by. I'm looking at the tag right now. Dylan.mbr.
Dylan D
Yeah,
Day Brown.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the two singles we put out was in his likeness and Plane to Decay. Both the album covers were shot by Dylan Brown, and
Those
we just
photos are
used those
great.
band photos.
This is some classic black metal right now. What are you holding? Like a deer skull and a candelabra?
Yeah, I had a little goat skull. Yeah, Logan had the candles.
Yeah, the pictures were really fun. We had Jack taking them at first. We were in the back of Upside in the old in the rooms that were taken down for like mold or some shit.
The mold
And we
rooms?
were
You're in the mold room shooting
yeah, we were in the old
photos.
mold
Yeah,
holes, but like they were all like torn down. So
yeah,
we're
we're
out
in
in the
like the remains of the mold holes.
right, right. And we're in the corner and like Jack's trying to take these pictures on his like fucking Android and they were looking so blurry. And he was just like, "Yeah, I'm done with this. I want to listen to some Bathory." So he gave it over to Dylan, and Dylan actually he's into art and stuff. He paints and all that, and we should have just started with him because he actually got some really good shots.
So
So
he's not like a that's not like a he's not a photography guy. That those are just
nope,
No, I
nope,
think they were taking on what Logan's phone.
hell yeah.
yeah, yep, they
That's
were on mine.
awesome.
Yeah, the photos that are on the back of the CD too. If you want to show that, those are both shot by Dylan in the same photo shoot.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Dylan actually he really did a phenomenal job with it, and then Nolan did a little bit of filtering to make it like black and white, and might have done some other stuff with it, but it came out came out all we needed. It was great.
That mold room is where the first Necralant interview was shot. I think like years
That's
ago
right.
at this
Yeah.
point. That's a
And how are your lungs today?
uh worse than they were back then, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
I
room
I was out of work for 2 weeks once from and being in that studio.
really.
I got a bad lung infection from doing some sort of practice in there. It was bad.
Yeah, I don't think the combination of like mold spores and cigarette smoke in an in a room with no ventilation.
Ugh.
Yeah, we used to try to record vocals in there too. And I remember like we'd listen to it back and we'd be like, ah, I'm not getting like the best performance out of this session. And Mark would be like, oh, you're also just breathing in straight black mold right now. So maybe that's why. And I'd be like, oh God, okay.
The new room with the no mold paint that we shot the Beneath Purgatory interview in. Much better,
Yeah,
much
Much better,
smaller,
much smaller, but much better.
but much better
yeah,
room. You don't
yeah.
feel
That room was
quite
really cool
as
for the
you don't feel quite as gross in the new one.
No.
yeah. That room was a really good atmosphere for recording this album, actually.
Yeah. It was small enough so it felt intimate and like when Nolan and I like how we like recorded it was we
Mm-hmm.
played at the same time and
Okay.
um I think Nolan and I still being able to be close enough to each other that we could get a natural performance. But we were also able to isolate his guitar away from my drums enough so that there's really minimal bleed, if any. You can, like, I can occasionally hear a little bit of bleed, but like I can't imagine anybody else really will be able to.
I mean, you
I think
mixed it. You're gonna hear every
exactly. I
little
was like
detail
looking
there
for
is in
it.
there.
So right. So I think it actually it worked out beautifully. So it was nice. Like we got a really raw, like nice performance that felt natural. And that even with a small room, we were able to kind of minimize any of the issues. So
Yeah, we had the room set up really cool too. Like the lighting in there, we had candles and incense burning the whole time. Like it felt like a very it was an intimate process and a
yeah.
very like ceremonial in a way.
I kind of wanted to get into that because we talked about it briefly in the first Necrolant interview, but like in the past, occultism and like ritual have been a big part of your work and recording process. How does that tie into the current album?
It was a big thing for me, especially lyric wise. There was a lot of thought that went into the lyrics, and they're all based on occultism and chaos gnosticism, and yeah, that type of satanic philosophy. So yeah, in that way, I definitely still incorporate it because it's just a part of me that I don't think I'll part with, especially when I'm making this music.
It's it's very, I don't know, it's black metal and that style of occultism are kind of inseparable. They're almost they're so like tied at like origin point.
Yeah,
That's really,
they egg each other on a bit.
yeah. Logan, what's your take on all that?
To be honest, I play the drums. I recently got myself diving into the Christian U.S. power metal scene of the mid '80s. Those guys are fucking metal,
Christian
dude. Holy
U.S.
shit.
power metal. Let's
Oh
go.
yeah, they're goaded. It's Sacred Warrior, Recon. Fuck, what was another? Oh, Christian. I also got into like Christian death metal accidentally too. Like Mortification is a really good band. Yeah, no, there's some. Not that I'm that way religiously either, but like they're they make fucking good music.
I there's listen, man. I've been known to highly enjoy some Christian metalcore pretty often.
The end of the day, man, as long as you're not like, there's sometimes where the lyrics are like, "There's gay pornos everywhere. God's gonna kill you," and I'm like, all right, like there was an album that every song was just about that, and I'm like, okay, but like if they mask it enough, if I can seriously, the first line of one of the songs is like, "Gay pornos and AIDS are everywhere." I'm like, oh, but if you hide it,
It's
it's good.
you ever listen to like Seven Angels, Seven Plagues or anything like that?
I've
I have
heard
not
of
heard
them.
of them.
It's like an old '90s Christian metalcore band. It's a little. It's. I think it's a. I can't understand all the lyrics. I think they're a little headier than like power metal screaming about if you're gay, you're going to hell.
I might be
Oh,
thinking of the Marduk song "Seven Angels, Seven Trumpets." Actually, now that you say that, because I don't think I know any Christian metalcore, but the
There's
name sounded
that.
familiar.
There's the Chariot. That's a good band.
this shit rules. Oh.
Um,
All right, we can get back into interview mode. Sorry.
no, we're good. We're good. Um, I do actually. I want to talk to you. We talked about it like briefly in the Beneath Purgatory, but how is it tackling being a school teacher and being in all these extreme metal bands?
It's awkward, dude. It's so awkward. Um, it's funny because so last year I was at a different school, and now
Yeah,
I'm back at the school that I was at before. There was like a weird position thing and some budget stuff, and I had to
yeah.
move over. And I'm back now. And so these kids have known me for a bit. Um, so they all know Beneath Purgatory. It's annoying. I'll like walk down the halls and they'll be like, "Mister, I'm listening to Lord of the Meek right now." I'm like, that's so weird. Oh, please stop. Um, I actually did have one kid come up to me and be like, Mister, your band is pretty cool, but the lyrics suck. That was really funny, actually. I'd agree. So It's weird, especially now joining Necralant too. They haven't really found out Necralant yet,
Have they
which
found
is good.
harvest? They found harvest
They don't know
manipulation.
Harvest either. They aren't aware of that. No, actually, the last Harvest Manipulation show I played, there was 3 or 4 kids I taught at my old school at that show, and that was
Really?
weird. Yes,
Was
so
that the
nobody at my
one?
current school knows, but
Was that the one at Firehouse? I think I was at that.
you were at that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was setting up my base, right behind the merch table, and I look over, and this kid who was in my algebra class last year is like buying a shirt, and I'm like, what are you doing here?" And she like kind of looks at me and goes, "Huh?" I'm like, "I was your algebra teacher last year." And then it clicked because I obviously looked very different than I did at school. Um, and she figured it out, and she like, I don't even know if she bought the shirt. She might have ran away. But um, yeah, it was really weird. I obviously don't tell my students about anything that I'm up
Yeah,
to with the music because that's just odd.
yeah.
Um, but at my last school, they knew about the firehouse and they showed up, um, without knowing I was doing it. And some of them find it cool. Some of them, a lot of the 7th graders at my current school use it as a way to bully me. Like if I like call them out on something or to say to get back to work or like whatever, I'd be like, "Mister, that's why you're emo in your 20s." I'm like, "Ah, oh, nope, that's not it." Um, so it's kind of funny. But
Emo in your 20s.
yeah, it's like that's not true.
Yeah, and that's
Close
the worst
enough.
insult.
Wrong
Getting called emo
subculture.
when you're into like black metal. Yeah.
I get
Dude,
that
yeah,
I'm
it's the
wearing black, but
worst.
it's
Oh God. But it's kind of fun. And I mean the school I'm at now, I love the place. I've been volunteering at it for a long time. And there's a really like deep relationship between students and teachers there that just make an awesome culture.
it's awesome.
And so the kids kind of like respect me for being me, which is cool. There's a lot of different walks of life in that school, and everyone's just like, "Great, you're doing what you're doing. That's awesome." We had this one guy at that school actually who's he's a doctor, and he's a history teacher. And he played in the band Love Child in the '90s, and they
Oh,
toured Europe opening for Sonic Youth in like '92 or '93, and they
yeah.
just recently like got all their albums just got picked up by a label. They're getting reissued. They're back together. Like so, there's musicians at our school, which is really cool. So.
What was like an artist that really got you into heavy music? What's your heavy music, extreme music origin story?
So for me, I don't know exactly where you'd want to draw the line for like being really heavy music, but my earliest memories as a kid was my dad showing me Kiss like on the radio and
Yep.
showing me the albums and stuff. So yeah, I was a huge Kiss fan growing up, and then I got into like my taste kind of progressed through the decades as heavy music progressed. Like I started with Kiss, and I got into like Motley Crue and all like the
Hmm.
glam type bands like that. Then eventually, when I was like 10, I got into Metallica, and that was like my introduction to, like real metal, quote unquote. And then that got me into thrash and everything, like the Big Four and all that. And I was totally obsessed with that through all of middle school and whatnot. And then I found death metal and eventually black metal, and that just kind of took over my whole musical passion by the time I was 14 or so. So yeah, that was the progression for me.
Yeah, for me, I was pretty restricted on things I could listen to as a kid. I had I wouldn't say like overly strict parents, but they certainly were pretty protective. And I had a brother who was much older than me, and when I was in I don't know late elementary, early middle school, he was really big into Disturbed. And so
Let's
I know this is
go.
like this is gonna sound fucking bad. And I like looked up to my brother so bad, so I like got into them as like just as a wee lad, and eventually like One by Metallica came on the radio, and I was like, the fuck do I need Disturbed for? This is so much cooler. So I just like dove into that, bought a bunch of CDs, went worked down through the Big Four and stuff.
Yep.
Eventually got into like Death and Cannibal Corpse, and um, those were more gateways into the more extreme stuff. For black metal, I started a lot with Dark Throne mostly. Like Dark Throne was the reason that BP started back with Jez. Like we just listened to Transylvanian Hunger and said we're doing that. Um, and obviously like now like I'm really deep into it. But that was like those were the kickoffs. And they're not really bands I listen to much on my own anymore. I've moved deeper, but those really got me started with it.
You're not still listening to Disturbed, dude? You're not
What
a
do you
big
mean, new
Disturbed?
album this year, brother? I think I don't know. So my brother mentioned that to me. I think.
My mom loves that Sound of Silence cover.
Oh God. True Cavolt Sound of Silence.
True cult black metal Disturbed, dude.
Yeah.
I feel so in touch with Satan when I hear "Mother, get up! I'm coming down with the sickness." Ooh-wah!
Yeah, we're down with the sickness. In case you're wondering.
Oh
I
yeah,
definitely
Necrolant's
walked
down
around
with the
the bald
sickness, guys.
fist when I listen to that.
What's that?
We gotta. What was that? Huh?
Hmm?
Huh?
What did you say?
I didn't say anything. We're doing like visual humor right now on a fucking purely audio format.
We're gatekeeping the jokes. They just can't see them.
No, yeah, the audience is they're not tapped in enough to the Worcester black metal to understand the fist shaking humor we're doing.
Yeah.
Open
All
your
of our
third
answers-
eye.
All of
Listen
our
to
answers are actually
Tool.
just going to be written. We're just going to hold them up to the camera. We're gatekeeping our answers.
Yeah.
You have to be in the meeting to know.
If you come to a Necrolant show, we'll explain the joke to you.
Yeah. Buy the album. It'll be hidden in the liner notes.
You guys, what are the summer plans for Necrolant? Because you aren't working because you're a teacher and you're out of school, Nolan. You got anything coming for the summer? Any maybe like mini tours or something?
Hopefully, yeah. We've been in contact with some people. Like I said, there's one show that's lined up, hasn't been announced yet, but we're hoping to play as much as we can. I'm really looking to get back to it and start playing out a lot.
Hell yeah! I guess, is there anything else big coming for Necrolant? Does Necrolant have any after this album, any upcoming plans or ideas that the listener should know about?
Guess we shall see in due time. There's nothing that we're aware of yet. It'll be the album and then more
And
shows.
some shows.
But yeah, hopefully some bigger things down the line too. We'll see what the album does for us.
Do you have like a dream place that you wanna play? Like if you could book like a dream tour, what would like 3 top locations be?
For me, I would love to play just like over in Scandinavia.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the home of a lot of my favorite bands. Play in Norway and Sweden, Finland, and all that. Play at some of those festivals over there. Maybe I'll go to Poland or something too. That would be a dream for me.
I'm looking to play Firefest, Lollapalooza. No, I'm kidding. I don't actually. I don't know because there really hasn't been like a ton of places that I've played outside of New England. I don't know if I've played any show outside of New England. So to me, like there's so many places that I want to play. That anywhere that's like a new place for me would be
Yeah.
amazing. Obviously, going to Scandinavia though would be fucking awesome. Like that would probably be the dream, especially for Necroland. That I'd say those would be, yeah. I'd agree with Nolan.
You're joking about Firefest and Lollapalooza, but like I feel like heavy music's kind of it's having a moment right now. I feel like extreme music is becoming more and more widely accepted. There's pros and cons to that.
I think more
Yeah.
con than pro, but
More
that's
con
just
than pro.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
Black
mean,
metal should never be accepted by the mainstream. If it is,
no,
you're
no,
doing
no,
something wrong.
no.
well, and then what is being accepted by the mainstream is like the sleep token. Who the fuck needs sleep token? It puts me to
Yeah, like
sleep more like
knocked loose and whatnot.
Yeah.
knocks
What
my
was it? It was
brain
like
loose. I lose my brain cells listening to them.
it was like the Knock Loose song with Poppy on it that won
Ugh.
the Grammy.
Oh yeah, what a good representation of metal, right?
Yep, the tough shit. Yep, that's what the cool ones listen to. If
But
you're
like
in the
I
know.
even like outside of like a mainstream thing, I'm like noticing that I know this is we're getting off topic from black metal at this point, but like I'm noticing slam getting a slightly bigger audience than it used to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah,
Like there's a
yeah.
lot of kids who are into slam now and like kind of that
Well, yeah.
groovier
Well,
side of grind.
what was it? Peeling Flesh did an album that was like huge last year, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The album cover killed me. It was like a picture of like what was it? Old convertible cars with like 26-inch rims doing hydraulics while there's a bunch of cups of lean behind it.
Yeah,
Like that was admittedly a hilarious
it's
cover,
very like
but
almost like old Gucci Mane inspired
yeah.
in its presentation a lot of the time. They'll
Yeah,
have like
admittedly that
air
cover
horn
was
sound
hilarious.
effects. I'm pulling that album cover up right now. I gotta look at it again.
It
Yeah,
does feel like a Gucci Mane cover.
yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say
it's
like maybe it's because a lot of that stuff like sometimes sounds like it has more in common with like hip hop and dubstep than it does with true
Yeah,
metal when you listen to it. Like it's so
it does.
different from like
it's
yeah.
yeah, it, it's a lot less melodic. It's a lot like bassier and bouncier. It's almost danceable.
Yeah, it's fun and like goofy sounding and yeah, like danceable and I guess that's what's appealing to the kids now.
Kids these days don't
They
know
don't know about
non-danceable, non-goofy metal.
they don't know about
Yeah,
atmosphere.
yeah,
They don't know about building some atmosphere. But like even like you're seeing so many people like discover mayhem out of nowhere in like the past
Yeah.
year. Uh like I'm seeing a lot like the mayhem and Dark Throne especially and like random little DSBM bands. Like DSBM has gotten slightly bigger
I have
in
noticed
recent
that,
years.
yeah.
mhm, yeah.
And I don't think any of that's reaching or even has like the potential to reach any kind of mainstream. But it's interesting. I don't know what my full take on it is though.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
interesting. Like, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go.
I was gonna say, like, I've noticed even like being here at school, there are kids who are my age who like don't listen to any black metal or sometimes like not even any metal, and they know like the whole mayhem story somehow, even just like from the internet, from TikTok or whatever. And it's interesting, like, say like, oh, like you know about that band that like ate pieces of their lead singer's brain and took pictures of his dead body and bassist killed the guitarist and all that. I'm like, yeah, I've seen them 3 or 4 times live. They're actually like I love them. They Mysterious Albums of Thomas, one of my favorite albums of all time. And it's like it's interesting that even like just like their whole lore, the whole story, like has reached a different audience outside of people who actually listen to the music.
Yeah, the mayhem story is really like clickbait titleable. I've noticed it's
Yeah,
pretty easy to make a video where it's like the most fucked up band of all time, and
yeah,
it's like well I've known the mayhem story since I was like 16 at this point, guys.
Right.
It's got I wonder if it has a resurgence every couple of years because it happened so long ago at this point. I'm sure this like cycle of like mayhem's backstory being like rediscovered has been happening longer than the internet's been documenting it's happening.
Well, don't forget too, what was it? I was a freshman in college when Lords of Chaos came
Yeah,
out.
with Lords of Chaos.
Um and I remember a bunch of us threw on a fucking watch party for that in one of the common rooms in college just to like laugh at how absurd it was. And then a bunch of people from then on who hadn't listened to Mayhem before were like suddenly checking Mayhem out. That was kind of cool. But like that brought a resurgence then, and then people started getting into now with TikTok. I see all these kids getting into heavy music, but like Limp Bizkit, and some yeah, some of the TikTok and its many flaws of leading kids to music, but it's like when some kids want to from TikTok go a little bit deeper, they immediately jump to Mayhem. So there's a jump with that. recently. There's kids at my school who know about Mayhem and all that, and they're coming up to me in their Slipknot shirts, like, "Oh, Mister, you ever heard about that band that like the bass player killed the guy? Like, do you know of them?" Never heard of them.
Yeah.
Because I gotta deny it, of course.
What's the what was the album that got you into black metal specifically? I know I was asking about your heavy music origin
Mm.
stories, but like what was like the artist that like got you into black metal specifically?
Um, This is another thing of like depends like what you consider black metal. Like if you consider 80s first wave black metal to be black metal, which I do, then it would be Venom and Bathory. Because I got into that stuff like as I was coming out of like thrash, getting into more of the evil side of things. So it was that, and then I got into Norwegian black metal after that. So it was probably De Mysterious Dom Satanas. That was the first album that like really clicked with me, and I was like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I also got into the first wave year stuff more first. Like Sepultura Morbid Visions was like the first like really extreme album that I ever bought on CD.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love that thing to death. That's an amazing record. And so, some people consider it black metal. I think it's a pretty black metal record for '86 too. And as far as like moving into more second wave and more what we think of as black metal, it was just a couple records, not necessarily bands so much. But like it was like A Blaze in the Northern Sky by Dark Throne, De Mysterious from Mayhem, Immortal Pure Holocaust. Those were like the big three albums that I really got into black metal with. And Nolan and I have known each other for a long time, but we've really become close. These last like 2 or 3 years, and in that time, he's opened my eyes to a lot more black metal that I wasn't aware of for a long time. That has kind of shown me the direction that I like. But yeah, it was really those kind of three that opened me up initially for sure.
Do you guys have any shout outs? Do you have anybody else from the scene that you think needs some appreciation? From our scene specifically, I'm talking. Let's give some hometown guys some love.
Step one is Mark Verdon and Old Bard for showing up on our show too, um,
Mm.
for our
Swag.
release show. And Mark Verdon recently Nolan, what was that video that you sent me that they got like shouted out some like music collector guy on YouTube?
Yeah, Mordant Red on YouTube made a video about like underground raw black metal and noise and whatnot, and he did a few albums from the Upside scene. He shouted
Oh,
out Mark Verdon and Music and Weird Angel, which shout out to those bands too. They're great.
Hell
Scum
yeah.
from Maine. I will always shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out
Um,
Scum.
oh my God. I mentioned it in the BP interview. I'll mention it again. Those riffs are nuts. The vocals are insane. And Stewart's the greatest drummer of all time.
Yeah, they're probably the most extreme and like abrasive and evil band around, as far as I know,
Hell yeah.
from our
And
scene at
amazing
least.
people.
Yeah.
I want like a deep cut recommendation from each of you, something that the Bughead audience hasn't heard or seen or read or eaten, experienced.
I'll stick to music for my recommendation. The Scuffed Morgan Rod. It's spelled SVOPT and then MORGENROD. It's by the band Chaos Ritual. It's spelled with a K as one word. It's a Norwegian band from like mid 2000s. Album came out in '07, I believe, and yeah, really good raw black metal. Yeah, very good, evil, somewhat melodic. Definitely recommend it.
I'll also stick to music for mine. If you are into the 80s Queensryche sound, my wheelhouse, I've been on a serious kick of finding extremely obscure bands who maybe put out one album, maybe two if they're lucky. Some of them just demos back in the 80s and 90s trying to like capture that Queensryche sound. It didn't get anywhere because Queensryche took all the light. So if you're into that kind of sound, check out Lethal Programmed, amazing record from 1990, pure USPM. Sounds like the step between The Warning and Rage for Order. Sacred Warrior, they're like a really weird Christian band, but they have some really ripping tunes if you ignore the terrible lyrics. Apollo Ra just did a demo in '89, but that whole record, it's like a 45-minute demo, and it's pure like progressive power metal. Heir Apparent, Graceful Inheritance, that one's kind of known, but that's a USPM classic from '86. If you're looking for an Empire sound, go Zealot Z with their 1992 demo titled Zealot Z. Siam is great from the 90s. Mystic Force, their 91 EP, Take Command. Listen to that. Really good power prog metal from the early 90s. And if you're looking for some really wild, progressive, like spacious shit, try Vaudeville Two Dimension Logic. It's probably not for if you're just a pure metal fan. The other stuff you might be into if you're a pure metal fan, but if you're looking for some really cool progressive stuff that has a tie to the Queensryche sound, great album from '94. Most of these you can't find on streaming, by the way. Go to YouTube. But I got plenty more, but I'll just stick with that for now. Go listen to that shit. That's the good stuff.
My recommendation is going to be that you go down to the description and check out the Bughead Photo-zine. We got some Necralant photos in there. We got a $12 physical version, $3 digital version. You can help support the show, help make great interviews like this happen with amazing bands like Necralant, and also get like a cool little zine out of it. So go check that out. Also available at Tres Gatos in Jamaica Plain in Boston, if you want to go to a store and buy a copy. But this has been Necralant. Where can the people find you?
In your deepest nightmares. But yeah, you can find us on Bandcamp and Instagram. It's probably the best place to get updates and whatnot. We're on all the streaming sites, Spotify, Apple Music, and all that, YouTube. So yeah, anywhere where you like to consume your music.
All
you
right.
can find us.
Links in the description. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of
Thank you.
course.